Yanda, Zobe Sanje Riba, Shazon Demba, Devaration, Jiden Jamba Jiwon, the Kano Jiwa, Lanam, Tadam, Benam Jedemba, Sanje Jumden, Dembeji, Shaya Tuba, Lasa, Zemo, Chudo, Jasuchi, Demba, Jumden, the Shinsha, Dajumba Yanda, Zobe Sanje Riba, Shazon Demba, Devaration, Jiden Jamba Jiwon, the Kano Jiwa, Lanam, Tadam, Benam Jedemba, Sanje Jumden, Dembeji, Shaya Tuba, Lasa, Zemo, Chudo, Jasuchi, Demba, Jumden, the Shinsha, Dajumba Yanda, Watsu, Rivada Shadon Demba, Devaration, Jiden Jamba Jiwon, Kalo Jiwa, Lana, Meban, Lada, Menam Jedem, Sanje Jumden, Bejewa, Shaja Tuban, Chaselo Chudo, Jazo Jeo, Kanze Kanye, Zoe Jadam, Sajen de la Gomba de Brune, Lande Jiden de la Churches, Tezekeva Jama Cha, Selo Namda Kunga Chudo Susan, Yeji Jazo Sejen Humbo Da, Chava Jiden Sumna Lame, Gombo Chonye Jama Cha, Selo Senjon de la Jimen, Sendo Java Jama Cha, Selo Diri da Siva Sumachi, Nyame Kenji Jama Cha, Gombo Tuji Chedemba, Tamji Jembe, Sonoma Yunde Jazu Jin, Dijin Jama Cha, Taben Deja Tewa Ju, Giving Yes on the Twitch, Chedo Tenamasho Juva, Shinju Jama Cha, Chene Tewa Lanya, Lava Tala, Shinga Tamba Yunde, Gindun Lanya Cha, the Wajin, Mijashin, Gava Prison Soviet. Rangi Sinde Yonsu de Tene Sanje Tempe, Karma Ravi Mameda, Yuma Seba Chuku, Melon Lodan Tenda, Decision, the Tarata, Sonamandi, Tumjes, Kobanto Nejin Radu, Gada Nada, Shiva Love, Sivia Solendro, and Jovarisho,
To the teacher,
Blessed One, the one beyond, the fortress, the completely perfect, fully awakened, perfect in knowledge and good conduct. Sugata no supreme guiding beings to retain, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the subject, the prostrate make offerings and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the four destroyed, the completely perfect, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct. Sugata, no of the one, supreme guiding beings to you. Teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely fully awakened, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the subject land, I prostrate make offerings and go for refuge.
To the teacher,
the blessed one, the one beyond, the four districts, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct. Sugata, no of the one, supreme guiding beings to you. Teacher of gods and humans,
to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Men supreme among humans, you are born on this earth. You paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies formed streaming pure, wisdom motion like golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds. You know the best, to you I prostrate. With supreme size, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior in great compassion, the teacher in all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one gone to dustness, I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower others, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma which pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realization, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community defending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Star, mirage, flame of a lamp, illusion, a drop or two of lava, a dream of flash, lightning, cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits, the sage beings attain the ring of all sin. Subdue the four faults. Be delivered from motion of suffering, aging, sickness, and death.
Sanje Jano Soje Jano Chanju Bado Dane Jansu Dage Jeso Jebe Sono Dola Penche Sanje Jobe Sho Sanje Jano Soje Jano Chanju Dage Jeso Jebe Sono Je Dola Penche Sanje Jobe Sanje Jano Soje Jano Chanju Bado Dage Jeso Jebe Sono Je Dola Penche Sanje Jobe Sanje Jano Soje Jano Chanju Bado Dage Jeso Jebe Sono Je Dola Penche Sanje Jobe
I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Pumea Bumbole Jeme Dela Bume de Deme de Jinshiba Bude, de Jinshiba Kanshi, Kede Sanje Bumbolo Dene Rajili, Rajin and the Kameba, the Jengo Lakami, Kanshi Jingo Dene, the Danya de Medo, Kanshi Danya Mebo, the Chita, the Jinshiba, Kede Raji Yemena, Shimo Yobochi, Raji Dana Shimo, Madon de Jinshe, the Kang, Kede Pumbo Madam, the Jinshiba, Tene Tatu Denji, Tene de Jula, Pumbo Nama, the Jinshiba. Kajima de Yemena, Denisha, Yanan, Yawan, Yawan, Leverage. Yawan Lemba, Meva, the Jinshiba, Jim, Naman, the Zation, Kajit, Yeshin, Meva, the Jinshiba, the Yawan, the Kajin, Yawan, the Tender Rajin. Dago, the Kamema, the Jingo, the Yereke, Tetran Yaman, Yanan, Namaku. Tombe de Jinsha, the Vajadab, the Tomashi, Metoshi, neither Nime Meja, the David, the Job, the Tata Metama, the Shiva. Tata Tamelazo Jishwanda, Kamanya Kame, the Jishi, the Botu, Tedanya Nenda, Major Number Rajit, and Tonda, Sanjay, Yedishava Medu, Sambateva, the Sanjay Trinity, Savama, Trevania, Batavania, the Jinshava, Tomaja, the Jinshava Rajuka, and the brother, the Jinshava Rajim, and Rwandi, the Jinshava of Sheshava, Radujava Nishunyava, Kangia, what danger no woman when you do the Yishin Mesame, Bemet La Chat, so page 129. The third ground, the luminous. Third ground. Second is stainless. First is joyful, right? Joyful, stainless, luminous. So third ground, the luminous. This has 4 sections. The etymology of name of the ground, the basis, name of the ground, the basis. Second is the quality of the ground, the attributes. The third is the distinctive characteristics of the first 3 perfections. And number 4, the conclusion studying the qualities of the ground. The etymology of the name of the ground, the basis. So text says, because because the first burning off the fuel of all phenomena. This is talking about the quality of the wisdom during the third ground, burning off the fuel of all phenomena, the pacifications, like dismantling existing and non-existing, everything, right? Produce light here. This third ground is called the luminous. Here, the child of the Tathāgata perceives a copper color glow like that of the sunrise. Sangde Nawa, because the wisdom during the third ground, it's burning off the fuel of all phenomena. So negation element or the conventional reality, everything kind of, pacify, within the emptiness, right? So, so this third ground, although this all kind of, all the Bhumis have the wisdom realizing emptiness, direct perceptions, that especially in the third ground has a unique and a more powerful wisdom. So, so that's kind of the quality of the wisdom, and the subsequently after the kind of coming out from the meditations, this Bodhisattva sees this copper color like that of sunrise, so morning sunrising, like that kind of appearance. So the third ground of the Bodhisattvas is called the luminous. If asked why it's called the luminous, it is true to the meaning of this name. When the Bodhisattvas attain the third ground, the fire of the gnosis burning off all the fuel of phenomena, a fire that has the capacity to pacify all the dualistic elaborations within the meditative equipoise. So I think this pretty much kind of, this is very similar to Nagarjuna's text. Yeah. So this means dissolving, or the kind of, everything pacifies in emptiness, even the conventional realities. And from the point of view of the emptiness, they do not really have any kind of, any essence to be stand out, right, as an entity. From the emptiness point of view of the emptiness, because all these are kind of conventional reality. They do exist, kind of, in the sense that depending on depending on other factors. So from the point of view of the emptiness, and even they do not exist, right? Because from the point of view of the emptiness means from the ultimate level, so none of those really exist ultimately, right? So the special quality of the emptiness, realization of emptiness, pacifies the liberation of meditative equipoise, produce the light here. Here at this point, the child of Tathāgata, who has generated the third ground of the awakening mind, perceive the light of the gnosis with the copper color glow that appears at sunrise. So that is to say, during post meditations, right? During post meditation period on this ground, the Bodhisattvas experience the dawning of dawning, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pervasive red or orange light. So that's the Sangye now. So this just we cannot really kind of logically kind of convince that. It's through the experience. So the precious garland says the third ground is the luminous. For the pacifying the light of the gnosis dawn, the absorptions and the clairvoyance have arisen. The attachment and the aversion have all utterly ceased. So here the attachment and aversions utterly cease in the sense of the desirums, all the afflictive emotions is impossible to manifest in their mind. So desirums, human afflictions, human beings' afflictions, or the God beings, like desirum God beings. So all these afflictions are possible for the kind of for us, kind of there is no afflictions in their mind. So as a fruitional effect of these attainment, he will engage especially in the forbearance and the diligence. This great celestial being is most learned. So celestial is giving a name. The celestial means now he is above the desirums of beings. He, in his mind, there is no space for the desirums afflictive emotion to grow or to manifest. So, and they're giving him, and they were celestial beings, although he's not necessarily the God being, because of the learned. He has undone the attachment of the desirum. So he's free from this, all the defects and afflictions of the desirum. So the quality of the ground, the attributes, this has 4 parts, showing how forbearance is superior on this ground. How forbearance, patience, is superior on this ground, the third ground. How to cultivate other types of forbearance. So there are many kind of practice of the patient, and the divisions of the perfection of the forbearance and the other pure qualities that arises on this ground, showing how forbearance is superior on this ground. The line says, where a disturbed person and so on present the way perfection of the forbearance come to be superior for this Bodhisattva who has attained the light of the gnosis. So here the stanza says, the text says, where a disturbed person slices flesh from the bones of the body of the Bodhisattvas, though he be innocent, cutting it off, ounces, right? Ounces by ounces over a prolonged period. This will serve to increase his forbearance towards the torturer. So I think this kind of quality of the forbearance, remember that one of the Bodhisattva in his previous life, when he was a Bodhisattva, the king cut his each limbs and slowly cutting his limbs and keep asking questions. So do you still practice patience? And the Bodhisattva says, yes. And then again he cuts another limbs, and then he asks again, what do you practice? And he said, I practice patience. And he cut another legs. And so each leg slowly asking questions, right? So that helped him, the Bodhisattvas, to perfect his patience, right? And then he, right after that, in order for help this king who brings torture on him, to bring him kind of to benefit to him, and he say the kind of the word of the truth, saying, if my patience is true, and all the limbs join back to my body, so instantly happened. And the king was so how to say remorse and regret about what he has done, and he confessed right away and pray for him. So then this Bodhisattva says, so with your cause, I have been perfected my patience. So when I attain the enlightenment, the great enlightenment, you will be the first person. So I will share my realizations. Right. So the Acharya Kundiniya, so was the the first among the 5 disciples, so who was attained the noble wisdom. So since the Bodhisattvas already possessed the, optimal excellence, what is the optimal excellence in the generosity and the morality, as described above, here from the among of the 8 remaining perfections, forbearance comes to be the superior for him. The way it comes to be a superior is this: the Bodhisattvas achieve the excellent in the practice of forbearance. To extend he does not for the other remaining 7 perfections. So he has perfected he is superior in the generosity, morality, and the patience. Right, this 3rd ground. So Bodhisattvas of the 3rd ground is characterized here as a being, is innocent and an inappropriate object for anger, because he guarded others' mind. So not only guarding your negative, he also has the ability to protect others' mind. Because he possessed the pacifying gnosis, as described in the lines, the fire burning of all fuel of the knowable objects. And because he does not exhibit with his body, speech, or thought such concerns as he harmed me and my kin in the past, he is causing harm now, or this suspicion that he might do so in the futures, which fuels antipathy towards the others. So this is called kind of guarding not only your mind, guarding others' mind, because of the he has totally abandoned the kind of the sources for possibility of generating impatience. Like, for example, he had harmed me in the past. He is harming me, or he will be harming me. And he had harmed my relatives. He is harming my relatives. He might be, right, kind of harm my relatives. Or he benefits he had benefit to my enemy. He is benefiting to my enemy. He will be benefiting to my enemies. So these kind of nine conditions which can give rise the impatience, right? So this Bodhisattva has totally abandoned these nine conditions. So the abandoning these nine conditions which can give rise to impatience is, I think here Chandrakirti is pointing out this is the reason he is not only kind of being able to guard his mind, he is also the guard the other's mind. So he will never let other people kind of be impatient, right, from his side, because he has this kind of the mind or suspicions is no possible to occurring in his mind. So when you have this kind of suspicions, and this can be conditioned to trigger other people impatient, right? So when you have this kind of, right, oh, he had some kind of harmed me in the past, was like, for example, just thinking about it, he had harmed me, or he is harming me, he will be, or he might be harming me. So which fuel antipathy towards the antipathy is impassion, aversion.
I think it's like
yes, aversion, dislike,
disliking, right? Antipathy,
intense dislike, or up to the point of hatred.
Antipathy towards so these are the nine conditions which can kind of give rise to antipathy, right? Aversion, right? Disliking to others. So this third ground, Bodhisattvas, totally free from these nine conditions or nine sources. Though this is so, where a person who is disturbed from within to not only slice flesh, but to do so from the bone of the body of the Bodhisattvas, not enlarge the slabs, right? But cutting it off ounces by ounces. And this too, not in one go, but over prolonged period. Posing regularly, so that the cutting is not complete quickly, the Bodhisattvas will not experience any vexations towards the torturer. In fact, this will serve to increase his forbearance towards that person. And the Bodhisattvas will direct his focus on the suffering of the health, and so on, that person might undergo because of the negative karma, suffering that is graver than any other types of similar suffering. So this is how the Bodhisattvas come to excel in forbearance. Now, on the first ground, such perfect joy, there is no disturbance within his mental continuum in response to having his body cut. So the first ground with Bodhisattvas, they do kind of have the quality to being patient, because this is the noble being Bodhisattvas, they do not have any mental suffering because they do not have any physical suffering because of their body, right? So it's said that he has not gained quite his level of the mastery in the forbearance. Therefore, they should understand that it is from this ground onward that one comes to excel in the forbearance. So I think he's trying to kind of, reason out because of this third ground and the power of his wisdom, and totally abandon the desirums, afflictions. There's no desirums, attachment, there's no desirums, the angers, jealousies, all the desirums, afflictions are totally shunned at the time of the third ground. So this is why they have totally abandoned occurrence of this ninth condition, which may give rise to impatience in their mind. So this kind of quality is not in the first ground and the second ground. So although they have the patience to bear any physical suffering and mental suffering, but they are not being able, they haven't been reached the state. They have totally abandoning the desires, afflictions, right? So third ground, it has this kind of so which I think there's some kind of, the patient is the root of the impatience is ignorance. So not knowing reality as it is the root of the kind of, the impatient. So in the I think Lamrin Chemo, they're talking about three kind of the patience disregarding suffering, patience taking up the suffering of others, patience from taking up others' suffering, the patience from penetrating the ignorance, right? Sometimes you try to understand something you could not really understand, and rather you misinterpret, right? So this is also the kind of, that become the root of all the I think because of not knowing the reality as it is, there's a chances to develop the impatience on the suffering that caused by others, and because of that ignorance, and there's being there's the impatient of not being able to disregard the normal kind of the discomforts like bug bites, right, and heats and colds. These also people sometimes could not stand for, right? So I think here the Tibetan Seba means forbearance, or being able to bear, right? Being able to stand with that, stand for it. So the Bodhisattva who sees the selflessness. So I think here they're saying that the root of this is Bodhisattva who sees the selflessness, who cuts what at what point in the time, in what manner, who cuts the person, the predator or the torturers, who cuts, and what he cuts, and here your limbs or your flesh, right? And in what manner, slowly or at once, right? This Bodhisattva who sees the directly perceiving emptiness, because of that power of the wisdom, he sees all phenomena as images in the mirror. So one who cuts your limb is like image in the mirror, and the person who has cut it, the limbs, is also the image in the mirror, and the way he cuts are also the reflections, just mere reflections. And by seeing thus too, so that includes two, here include the cause, right? The cause, so the wisdom realizing emptiness. And he will have such forbearance. So it's saying that because of the power of the wisdom, that he is able to forbear the suffering, right? So the perfecting the patience of the kind of third ground is mainly caused by the power of the wisdom, because he sees every phenomena as like reflections, the images in the mirror. Now you can argue like, and how about the Hinayana noble beings, Hinayana arhats? They too have this kind of the wisdom directly perceiving emptiness. They too have the kind of seeing the phenomena like mirror in the image, kind of the image in the mirror, right? And why these arhat noble beings are not perfected the patience? Why the third ground? Because the wisdom, the part of the wisdom is the ego, right? So now given this kind of, Bodhisattva's the third grounds, the wisdom is not just not just the wisdom. It is the kind of, it has it conditioned and sustained by the compassion and bodhicitta and the cultivation of the merit from ears. So that strengthening this wisdom, that wisdom can bring this totally abandoning the desire and its afflictions, and seeing much more kind of clear than the arhat and the noble, the first ground and second ground. Seeing all phenomena is more, more vivid and more convincing. Every phenomena is just images in the mirror. So I think this kind of, implying that the impatience is the substantial cause for the impatience is ignorance. And the way the perfecting the patience through the wisdom realizing emptiness. So patient, impatient, seva, miseva, right? So not only does his forbearance comes to excel on the basis of the focusing on the extensive suffering, such as those of the hells of bodhisattvas of the third ground, who sees selflessness and directly perceives these three spears, right? Spears? Spears. The one who cuts and what is being cut, the act of cutting of the body, at what point in the time. So in all, in what manner, in fact, sees all phenomena as images in the mirror. The free of acquired conception of I and mine too. So because of this, abandoning these two, the concept, acquired conceptions of I and mine, the Bodhisattvas will have such forbearance when facing harm. So I think this generosity is kind of, connected, rooted in attachment. The opposite of generosity is, how is one called? Miserliness, right? Is rooted in attachment. And the so the morality is like immorality is more like I think this is immorality is by kind of the emotionals habit, negative habit. I think negative habit means the habit that is done by the attachment. So and here the patience is the impatience is rooted in more to the kind of not understanding the reality as it is. So when you get angry with someone, and then the immediate cause or immediate preceding cause is not knowing what happened, and you just impose some kind of reason on him or her, and then you just kind of you allows this anger to to perform the functions, right? You unleash the anger. You let the dog of the anger go. So I smell something go. So yeah, the commentary says Deva. The grammatical particle to here in the sense stanza says that by seeing thus too, yes. So too means that includes, right? Normally, this too means you too means I'm one and you, right? So by seeing thus means seeing emptiness, directly perceiving the emptiness in the third ground, right? So if this third ground, wisdom realizing emptiness, is helping you to perfecting the patience, and that means that implies the first ground and the second ground, they too have this wisdom realizing emptiness, they're perceiving, right? So that include in there. So they, which means the first ground and second ground also have the patience, right, to take up the suffering of the physical. But here the special, the kind of superior in this, the third ground is because they have abandoned the possibility of generating impatience, negative emotions, or the suspicions, all which has the possibility of generating impatience as totally shunned at the time. So kind of this forbearance is a superior on this third ground, which means first, second ground, and first ground have not yet abandoned the desirous afflictions. the grammatical particle two indicates that this two is the cause of the forbearance. Not only does the Bodhisattva remain, remain undisturbed because of the reason given above, he also has the great forbearance because of what has been just explained here. Also, just before this in the commentary, the phrase for this reason too should be read as by seeing thus too. So, yeah, in the text, there many times you can see this brings a lot of kind of the different meanings too, right? Also, so that includes many things. Yeah. So when you say someone says, "Oh, I'm going to the restaurant," and me too, it's very obvious. You can see two-person. But when you read this, kind of by seeing thus too, right? And what that includes, right? So that includes the first ground, the second ground. They too have this condition to be able to take the suffering of the suffering, physical suffering. But so this too also indicate that now what is the superior quality in here? So they could forbear, they could accept, they could stand for this physical pain. And what is special in this third ground? So third ground has overcome or abandoned all the desires, afflictions, and particularly here this is a quiet conception of I and mine is totally shunned. How to cultivate the other types of forbearance? This is two-part inappropriateness of becoming angry and the appropriateness of cultivating forbearance. So other types of the forbearance. So it looks like other types of forbearance are the way of practicing the forbearance, cultivating the forbearance. So one way we already the text is explicitly mentioned due to this power of the wisdom, and they have abandoned all the causes and conditions which can give rise to impatience. And other types of means, and contemplating on inappropriateness of the becoming angry, right? And appropriateness of the cultivating forbearance. So the benefit of forbearance and the consequence of impatience. By contemplating on that, you can also help to the increases the forbearance or the patience. So inappropriateness of becoming angry, this is fourfold. It is inappropriate to become angry because it is pointless and will have grave consequences. So, angry back to the person who has caused suffering, saying that it is the pointless, getting angry. And then why? Because right now you are not happy, or you experience suffering because someone has caused suffering, and now with anger you're going to cause the suffering to yourself, right? Because you do not like the suffering that caused by other. So why you like to cause the suffering by yourself, right? If you like the suffering that caused by yourself, why you're not liking the suffering that caused by others. Right? So maybe like those Brahmins. So, so therefore, I mentioned there was this text that the Brahmins, the 5 Brahmins, came to in the village. They kind of, they stays in the family. In the morning, the housemen look outside. Those Brahmin has a poop around the house. Oh. So this houseman says, you should clean up by yourself. So before you leave, you have to clean up. And Brahmins looking for which one is my poop. so each person looking out, trying to find out, is this mine? And I'm going to clean it. Other is dirty, mine is clean. My poop is clean, other poop is poop. So this is like, yeah. So here they're saying appropriateness to becoming angry because it is the pointless and will have grave consequences. It is this, now the number 2 is, it is the contradictory to tolerate the future suffering, but tolerate against harm. Contradictory to, loathe, right? Loathe future suffering, but tolerate against harm. So, what is the contradictory?
Because the retaliation causes future suffering.
So contradictory is loathe future suffering, dislike the future suffering, and then retaliate against him. So this is saying, so you want to retaliate because this person has caused harm to you, right? If the cause, which kind of, any cause that kind of the, I would say, anything that caused you suffering, if you want to retaliate. So why are you causing the suffering for yourself? And why you're not retaliating yourself, right? So because you retaliate others because he has caused suffering, now you're kind of retaliating towards the others that also planting the seed, the suffering for in the future. Or retaliate against harm. So number 3 is, it is inappropriate to become angry because it destroys the virtue accumulated in the past over a long period. So anger can destroy many of the merit that you accumulated from the long period of time. So anger is destroying your own accumulation of merit, not just one merit, and long period of the accumulation of merit. Number 4, rejecting the anger on the basis of contemplating the numerous faults of intolerance. So kind of try to see the kind of defects of the anger. The anger, in generally, generally anger, every kind of physical action, the verbal actions, the mental actions, they give rise to 2 kind of we call cheba jutu, nyonga jutu. Cheba jutu means similar consequences from the actions, similar consequences from the experience. So anger too give rise to, and the one that, and the it kind of it habituates you. Second, you're continuously not happy for a long time. So unhappy and habit of getting angry. So I think it's almost the same thing. If you are habituating yourself getting angry, often getting angry with someone, and that means you're often not happy, right? Happily anger is not possible. So, one time in the world, his soul is giving the teaching on the Guide to the Bodhisattvas in the patient chapters. So his soul says the anger and the how's that? So anger and not angry, right? So if there's a benefit from this, not angry and anger. So if you want to kind of, hit someone, so with anger you hit, there's many possible of missing that you get. Without angry, you can hit on the point. So there's you may hit on the wall instead of the person, right? So not angry and you want hit. You just look and wait. So yeah, rejecting the anger on the basis of contemplating the numerous fault of the intolerance. So yeah, I think in this Vasubandhu's text, I remember a little bit the consequences, the fault of the kind of anger. This is anger may cause destroy the sleeping. Anger will kind of how say separate yourself from your loved one or friends, and anger makes you ugly. So the husband says anger is making you ugly, and kind of keeping distance from the kind of the friends and relatives, and anger continues to bring kind of unhappy, right? So it is inappropriate to become angry because it is the pointless and will have grave consequences. Not only does forbearance accord with the heart of the Bodhisattvas abiding on the grounds. So not only does forbearance accord with heart of the Bodhisattvas abiding on the ground, it is also for others not yet abiding on the grounds, ordinary bodhisattvas, right? The cause safeguarding all their qualities, ensuring they do not dissipate. The lines, if you respond with this, how to say? Vengeance. Vengeance means?
It's like revenge.
Revenge, okay. So this is more fancy, this word. So better than revenge. So up to cultivate swiftly and constantly forbearance praised by the Aryas. Verses third. Demonstrate intolerance how it is wiser to run away from anger. So I think this is kind of like talking about, yes, this third ground and the third ground and the first ground and then second ground, all these Bodhisattvas who are already on the ground, they have this kind of great practice to the perfection of the patience. But so the Bodhisattvas not yet reached the ground, the ordinary Bodhisattvas, or people, the ordinary people who haven't, actually kind of on the, who haven't really gone on the path, who haven't reached the path, who haven't really, meditating on the path. So they all have the desire to safeguard on their virtues, their positives, the qualities. So people who is want to be look good all the time, they should also practice the patience. So if you kind of you may look good, but often you're getting angry. So many times you're not looking good. So because you look good, so therefore you shouldn't be kind of angry all the time. And people who cherish their merits, they want to cultivate the merit through practicing generosities, the morality. So they too like this kind of good qualities. So therefore, they too have to practice the patience to guard these good qualities. Right? Because when you're impatient, when you get angry, this will destroy all the good qualities, right? Including looking good and the taste of the food and sleepings, right? If you like those. So so if you respond with vengeance when someone harms you, does your bitterness reverse what was already done? So this is saying the harm can it be undone by retaliating, right? By retaliating, can you undone the harm that has already happened to you? Resentment serve no purpose here in this life. So resentment, no purpose in this life, and it brings more conflicts in the world beyond too, next life and next life. So this is because the anger always comes back in the in the nature of habit, and anger when it comes back with the habit, and which means it also brings unhappy with with the anger. So now if you respond with vengeance or the anger when someone harms you, namely you react with anger towards the perpetrator, yeah, of that harm, does your bitterness or rancor, right, against the person help reverse what has served no purpose here in this life? Rancor is also resentment, right? Is it?
I think it's like rage or like, I don't know.
Anger is
Revenge. It's revenge.
kind of has, yeah, has you've stewed on it, you've thought
Yeah.
about it.
Keep thinking about it.
Resentfulness,
Yeah.
especially when it's long.
Yeah. Sigma, Chado. So kind of, the resentment is just kind of, for example, if the anger is like a kind of the tail of the anger is you keep holding, not letting it go. It continues to remain, continuously kind of, kind of stays within the mind, the resentment. Rancor is the furious state of the mind that is utterly harsh and has the same meaning as hostility, right? Not only is anger pointless, it brings more conflict with one's own welfare and the world beyond, too. By giving, by giving license to anger, so unleash the anger, one casts oneself into future undesirable effect that will ripen after the death. So this is kind of saying this: the anger is very how's that? Is the worst kind of emotionals. So it is a contradictory to loathe future suffering that retaliate against harm, while enduring the miseries that are the fruit of his past misdeed, but being ignorant of this. Enduring the mysteries that are the fruit of his past misdeed, but being ignorant. So I think he said within in everyday kind of everyday experience. So many of those discomfort and unpleasant state of mind. Sometimes you do not know. So why this unpleasant? Why I'm not happy? I haven't done anything. No one really said anything to me, right? So this is saying that these are the kind of kind of remaining kind of sign. So it's the kind of the consequences of the anger that is, but so we being ignorant of this, which says maybe I'll just go out and kind of refresh myself, or just go to the ocean or do something, or just go to the bar or something, right? So we just kind of find excuse to kind of for this unpleasant state of mind. But so this we do not like. But he who harbors the thought, so kind of the impatient mind. Others have harmed me. So others have harmed me will feel anger towards the perpetrator of harms by retaliating in return for injury, right? Return for injury. He actually obstructs what he has himself wants to no longer experience the suffering caused by the harm. So this is the present in the following. So I think in the mundanely, people say, so you have right to retaliate because he did this to you, right? So you should go and just fight it. So you have right. And people think that that's very normal, right? So, so here the commentary says this is like a contradiction to loathe future suffering, right? But retaliate against harm. By retaliating, and you think it gives you satisfactions, right? So he who speak of exhausting the fruit of the non-virtuous actions performed in the past, how can he bear to plant the seed of the future pain? If he is doing something, right, his retaliation is to act of, right, kind of act of expressing that I don't like that suffer that you caused me, right? So retaliation, this was, it's kind of, talking back to someone is kind of, is the expression that the harm that you bring on me, is I don't like it. So that's the kind of, reactions. So it's the Chandrakirti is saying, if you don't like that, why you plant the seed for the future suffering? Right. So and then all of this now the impatience and looks like impatience and anger, like they're kind of looks kind of simultaneous, right? And here they're saying slightly impatience, kind of impatient means not being able to stand for something or someone, right? And right away you may not have generate anger. So you're something that you could not stand for. And how? By thinking that he had caused harm in the past, right? He is going to, or he is causing, or he might be, just by thinking, it kind of in the building up the impatience, right? So these kind of in the suspicion thinking, right? The suspicion thinking. So, and that person has benefit to my enemy, or it benefiting, had benefit, or might be, will be. I heard some kind of this kind of thinking is a building of impatience. So by building a continuous to that, and then there's the anger, that unstoppable, that rise, and that really kind of moves the physical, and even kind of from the verbal speech. So first we have to prevent the beginning of this impatience. So to prevent the beginning of this impatience, the before is building up the impatience. And what really kind of studying of this spark of impatience is your thought, projecting things, right? So even the person, you still get angry, the person who has died 50 years ago, right? So you still even think of that, or that person has did something terrible to my relatives, the friends, my nation, something like that. So, but it's not really going, but this kind of actions, the expression is to show I don't like what you have done. So why you're not liking that someone has done, that person hasn't done physically to you, or he hasn't come to you and caused you, but you think that, or he has done terrible things. So there's some kind of not being able to stand for that, right? So So this kind of, if you do not like, stop projecting that. Sometimes you can, before you sleep, you keep thinking about something. Oh, what if this happened? What if this happened? So your mind got really kind of go very active and excited and grasping those images, right? And that really destroy your sleep. So I think that this is why they're saying that the root of this impatience is misconception or ignorance. So in the ignorance here, and one of the ignorance is ignorant of what is happening right now, what is causing unpleasant kind of pleasant experience in the present. So not knowing that, right? Not knowing or do not have any interest in knowing about it, right? So this one of the ignorance. And what if my anger towards that person because so I'm angry because I'm expressing that I did not like the suffering that he causes to me. So then your ignorance says, yes, just go for it, right? So your ignorance is about what this particular now motivations and this kind of state of mind, isn't this the cause? Again, it may cause you suffering in the future. If you don't like that person who has caused suffering, and you should not be liking right now in this kind of impatience and anger towards the others. So I think this is kind of the four the origin of the impatience, or for kind of beginning of the impatience, right? 4 of 9 beginning of the impatience. So kunna narsambe shigu. So the third ground of the Bodhisattvas, because of their power of the wisdom, they have come to kind of being able to abandon all the desirums, afflictions, right? So because of that, they have this kind of they gain the superior in the among the 6 perfections, the patient, right? So they gain the special quality in the patience. So being able to patient for the suffering is the first ground, second ground, third ground is the same, right? So gaining superior in the forbearance in the third ground. So which means through the power of the wisdom, they have overcome all this beginning, kind of the basis to building up the impatience. So that the third ground is being able to prevent or kind of abandon all this kind of in the gateway or the door to that may have the possibility of building the impatience. I think this is also you can see in the Dhammapada. So there also Buddha mentioned about that, right? So Dhammapada you can only see is do not think that someone has harmed you, right? So, but did not really in the Dhammapada there's no reason. How do you really prevent this kind of mind, right? So now with respect to those great suffering inflicted, I have finished reading this, right? Stanzas. He who speak of the exhausting the fruit of non-virtuous actions performed in the past, how can he bear to plant the seed of the future pain? By inflicting harm on others and being angry at them. So like, you read the reverse, by inflicting harm on others, being angry at them, can he exhaust the fruit of the non-virtuous action performed in the past? Can he justify, right? You're angry towards the other can justify it, or can he undone the suffering that caused by others? So it say no, it cannot be. My anger towards other cannot undone the suffering that I experience, which has caused by other. And then the question is, and why do you like to plant this seed for the suffering in the future? Right? Because he is causing me suffering I don't like, but I am causing suffering to myself. I like it. So I'm very happy. I love it. Respect to those great suffering inflicted by one's enemy and so on that injure one's body. For someone who speaks of his wish to exhaust the fruit of non-virtuous actions performed in the past, such as taking a life, the consequences of which are the fruitional effect of the three lower realms, as well as encountering all the undesirable, costly, concordant effects. So every day that unpleasant, unsuccessful failures. So you all think that this all have causes the condition, right? This all have the cause of the condition. So how can such person, bear once again to plant the seed of the fruit pain? So how can you really bear to planting the seed that may give rise to suffering in the future? How can he, by inflicting harm on other in retaliations and by misery, right? By being angry at them with anger churning from his depth, right? So lead himself misery that is the greater even than the what he has currently experienced. So if someone causes harm to you, right, or says something bad about you, right? So now you can, right, with your patience, with your compassion, with your wisdom, you can reduce the suffering. You can prevent the suffering on you. But when you plant the seed, the suffering is inevitable. So you cannot reduce it. You cannot, right? Because what you have caused the suffering to yourself. So it just inevitable. It comes or falls on you. So when others bring the suffering, right? So say something bad or insult or whatever they. So you can use your mind, wisdom, exercise. You can prevent them you can totally unharmed to yourself, and you can also reduce, right? So when you plant the seed, you cook, you have to eat. So if others throw at you, you can move, like you suggested to this. So let himself misery that greater even than what he has currently experienced. This would be illogical, like not wanting or not wanting suffering that caused by other and wanting to plant the seed for the suffering in the future is illogical. Therefore, just as one endured the pain inflicted by the physicians, such as with the sharp needle to help cure illness, likewise, to avert the limitless future suffering, it is most appropriate to have forbearance towards the immediate minor suffering. So there's some suffering by taking up on you. There's some kind of you may kind of possible of generating greater quality, taking up on them, or some of the suffering is coming to you. You cannot avoid them, and you can disregard by thinking, understanding of the impermanence and the conditional suffering. So conditional suffering, the impermanence can help many kind of the everyday discomfort can be disregarded, and you don't have those suffering comes to you, but you do not have any impatience. You say, this is the kind of this is supposed to happen in the conditional suffering, in the cyclic existence, right? So in Shanti, there was this disregarding the suffering, the patient disregarding the suffering. Shanti, they were used example, the farmers, and they, in their mind, the desire for the good harvest for after 6 months or 8 months. And then they go to the field, they could bear any discomfort, like bug bites or any kind of heat from the sun. So they just sing and just do it because they think it's a good harvest. And after a few months, they can have kind of good profit from it, right? So there is a chances to disregard many of those discomfort. And then the second, the impatience, taking up the suffering on you is like a Bodhisattvas. So Bodhisattvas, they see any unfortunate things or things happen. They find that this is the good opportunity for them to improve their compassions and generating bodhicitta. So taking up the suffering. And then Buddhista, in the Guide to the Bodhisattva, also talk about the qualities of the suffering. Without suffering, there is no confessions, there is no compassion. The suffering is needed, right? It's kind of one of the major conditions, or kind of a condition to be able to purify negativities and to be able to generate the compassion. Right? So then this is human being, and the born as a human being has the kind of perfect chances to developing compassions and the purifications. So the gods are too kind of distracted, and there's no suffering, so therefore they have no chances to developing compassion and the purification. And the hell realms, the animals, there's suffering is too kind of, you know, because they're ignorant, and there's kind of the the tense of the suffering, the seriousness of the suffering, they could not really think about generating compassion. So the human being, the suffering in the human being is the kind of, you know, can be used to improve yourself. So suffering is not really absolutely something bad, right? So you say, you know, in the teacher in the old time, we always get beat up by the teachers. So by beating up teachers, make us more focused on the study. So, and the smith, the beating up continues on the metals and things, and they're shaped in a good, right, part, or the many things, treasure, kind of the rings, the earrings. So the more expensive, they have to beat up. So yeah. So anything that is the kind of useful need a lot of effort, right? So weeds, they don't need efforts. So, so yeah, kind of accepting sufferings, the taking of the suffering, it can be useful for somebody or someone who has the kind of, you know, knowledge or information to cultivating compassion and purifications. It is inappropriate to become angry because it destroys the virtues accumulated in the past over a long period. So the anger destroys the virtue. Now here, talking about the Bodhisattvas, the anger to another Bodhisattvas, right? And non-Bodhisattvas who are not Bodhisattvas getting angry towards the Bodhisattvas. So how say, not Bodhisattvas, ordinary people getting angry towards the Bodhisattvas is destroying the virtues they accumulated in 1,000 years can be destroyed. And the Bodhisattvas to the Bodhisattvas, again, that destroy the virtues, that delay the path, right? And the Bodhisattva, this is just by not like saying bad, not harming others physically, simply in the mind, kind of harmful thought, resentment to another Bodhisattvas, they delay for many, many lives their path. So, practice of the generosity is the benefit of the generosity, and then generosity and continuously enjoying the result of generosity is relying on the morality. Morality to to complete the morality, or to guard the quality of the morality, and done by the patience. So kind of morality helps the generosity. Morality is helped by the patient forbearance. Yeah. Any questions?
Okay, I actually did have one. So, is there a way that we can use awareness of anger, and because you were talking about how telling someone, I don't like that. Is there a way to think in terms of resolving an issue, like resolving the problem, so that way it's not like, oh, me, I'm wrong. But if we think, I want to peace, is there a way that you can use that? I think like that from the experience of anger.
You mean the resolving the problems
between like
in two persons. The person who has kind of someone who are more powerful than you, and who has the kind of potential to bring harm on you, and had bring some harm.
Mm-hmm.
Now you want to resolve that, right, by talking to him, right? So this is Shizon always says. He always ready to deal with Chinese communists, and he says, kind of, I face and the kind of you can talk without anger. So it has more kind of I think there's a more better chances without anger. So the Bodhisattva, there's one of the Bodhisattvas, there's a Bodhisattva was, if you don't react, that is also the faults of the Bodhisattvas, violating the Bodhisattvas. You have to, if someone brings harm to you or the people, you cannot say, oh, I practice patience, I have to be passive. No, that's the kind of violation of Bodhisattvas. Bodhisattva has to come and face the problems and talk with problems. Now the main things, what they have to prepare is with patience, without anger. So Bodhisattva was the one of the kinds of, there's in mind training, this is the mind training says one of the kind of Bodhisattvas, the violation is and trying to be nice. So that's right. So trying to be nice means trying to prove yourself good person. Is not the right in the Bodhisattva's path. You don't think about proving yourself as a nice person. Right? So you have to always hear the intention, the pure intentions is important. Not to prove yourself as nice. With that intention, you do something. So that's still considered as kind of afflictions. So in the mind training is one of the Bodhisattvas kind of it's kind of like being nice, trying to be nice, trying to prove yourself nice. Yeah, you have to react. You have to react. Now the way you react, and try to react without the anger, right? Deal with problems.
Talk about the...
Yeah, I want to say something about this, if I may. About that, many of us on the path have kind of an unrealistic expectation, expecting we can resolve. With Buddhism, we can make all the suffering, all the uncomfortable situations go away. And I think this is a very kind of unrealistic objective, which will lead to a lot of frustration and disappointment, because the very nature of samsara is this affliction, ripening of negative karma, and we want to think we can always, if we can Of course, there is skillful action. I don't deny at all. There's unskillful action and skillful action. And like unskillful action might be you see someone is angry. You might say something that actually provokes their anger further, even if your intention is good. So therefore, it could be also skillful action to keep your mouth shut in certain situations. Or skillful action not to expect the problem will just evaporate. In fact, if we take the principle of the mirror and the ripening of karma, we can expect we're going to be faced with very painful situations in our lives that we can't just immediately make disappear and go away. And as Dalai Lama frequently says, he says, even with something like sending, receiving meditation, taking on other people's negativity, he says, I can't say for sure it'll help them, but it'll help me. So I think it's more productive to focus on what will calm our own minds and what will prevent or not prevent abandoning behaviors and even mental concepts of like vengeance and whatnot that are going to create future affliction, because all these uncomfortable situations that are arising are the fruits of our negative karma. And, we want to say, oh, if we're nice to someone or we behave this way, there's no guarantee that their behavior will change. But there is, for sure, ways we can provoke negative behavior in others. So I think it's actually more productive not to try and expect we can resolve all these painful situations, but how we ourselves can deal with them skillfully so we don't provoke our own negative behavior and mental states and other people's mental states. Of course, if you're a great Bodhisattva, which we're not, we might be able to affect other people's behavior much more, but we're like babies. We're still like babies. There's an expression, babies on the battle. What is it? Babies on the battle of samsara.
Yeah. So I'll tell you one story, maybe, the captain, with one of the Bodhisattvas, Bodhisattva Muni's previous life, the captain, kind of in a ship, or the captain of the ship. So he find two options. There's one guy, very strong, and Bodhisattva has left two options. Let him kill all his friends, 500, the merchant in that ship, or I kill him. So this Bodhisattva choose to kill that person, and not with anger. If he kills 500 merchant, and he will definitely go to hell. If I kill him, he will be kind of, free from this negative karma. So I may go to hell. So it's one person is okay. I can go to the hell. So with that motivation, he killed the captain. By killing that captain, but this Bodhisattvas accumulates the 8 years, the accumulation of merit. So you see, so it's mathematical. It's not like an opinion. It's not like someone comment, oh, this look good, that good. It's mathematically, you have to decide. So you have to see a result, right? Even though there's a prime minister or the president, so it gives you the choice. We can only get choice the word, right? So not to choose him as a president or choose him as president, right? So if that person is, for sure, he is going to bring down the country. So then we say, no. Even that harm make him very disappointed, very mad. So that's okay. So one person. But, overall, so it's the benefits that millions of people. For the millions of people, I can make one person mad. It's okay. It's mathematical. It's mathematical. It's not like. So this is what we talk. Sometimes we are confused with religion and the Dharma. Religion is the culture to carry how you practice. Right? So Dharma is not the religion. So Dharma is that is the reality, how you handle this reality, in what way, in what motivation, with what motivations. So the religion is it's the kind of culture, how we build up the culture to carry this type of Dharma. And this may be not appropriate to other people. It's the it's the culture. So Dharma is not the religion. If Dharma is the religion, and then, one of the professors that says, Dharma is the religion. So Dhara is the holding the identity. So everything that has identity is the religion. So the sugar, the sweetness of sugar is the sugar's religion. So some people say, so the sugar is religious. You have everything in your house is the religious. Some are the religious thing, some are the religious person. So the real Dharma practice is especially in the Mahayana, it's mathematical.
I have a question. Going back to the beginning of the teaching, on the first page of this chapter, I'll read this single sentence here. It's a long sentence.
First page of this chapter, okay.
Yeah. It's about maybe the fourth sentence, I think, of the third ground of the Bodhisattva of that paragraph. It says,
first page of yeah. The third ground is the luminous.
Yeah, that paragraph, the third ground, about the fourth sentence, it says, when the Bodhisattva attains the third ground, the fire of gnosis, burning off all the fuels of phenomena, a fire that has the capacity to pacify all dualistic elaborations with meditative equipoise, produces light here.
Yeah.
And I may be confusing two things. I'm looking at this particular phrase, the fire that has the capacity to pacify all dualistic elaborations with meditative equipoise. Yeah. And that sounds to me like they're talking about samatha, shamatha, samatha, however you want to say it, meditative equipoise. And the thing that I found a bit surprising and striking about this, and a bit I'm a bit confounded by this. It talks about pacifying the mind. It doesn't say uprooting the cause of affliction. You know, shamatha pacifies the mind, but when you come out of that state of shamatha, as you've mentioned before, you can fall back. Someone says something to you, you're no longer in that state. You may get upset. It's not like a permanent antidote. It will calm the mind and bring you into kind of a calm state, but it doesn't uproot the cause of affliction, which, from my understanding, is associated with Vipassana and Mahavipassana. So I noticed they talked about this kind of calm state, but not removing the causes of affliction in this sentence, which I guess maybe that doesn't happen till the sixth bhumi, like you and above, like you were saying. But you know, when you've kind of cleaned all these causes of affliction out after the sixth bhumi, you say it's like residue. Then you're dealing with residue on or a thin film on glass. There's a residue of your old habits, but you're basically pretty much free of afflictions. But here they're talking about calming the mind, and they're associating that with luminosity. And I would have somehow thought this had to do with completely removing the causes of afflictions, not just calming the mind. Do you understand what I'm saying? Or am I not articulating?
I think this is quite good. I understand. First your questions from the first pages. The fire of the gnosis burning off all fields of phenomena. Fire that has capacity to pacify all the dualistic elaborations within the meditative equipoise. So this is what saying meditative equipoise. What is the meditating in or meditating at? Is emptiness. It's a total absence of intrinsic existence. So now this third ground of this, the wisdom, kind of, the fire of this kind of burns off all the dualistic means. In the face of the wisdom that directly perceiving emptiness, in the face of the wisdom realizing emptiness, it burns off, right? Even the conventional reality, dualistic means the conventional reality. So conventional reality, like, like color, smell, taste, tactilities, human being, animals, those conventional reality, mine and yours, these are all totally pacified in the face of the wisdom realizing emptiness, single-pointedly meditating, observing in that emptiness. Because in the face of that total absence of intrinsic existence, right? Total absence of intrinsic existence, there is no even conventional reality, right? Now the question is, so if the wisdom realizing emptiness in the state of meditative equipoise does not perceive even in conventional reality, no conceiving, imagining, perceiving conventional reality, is what it sees is only absence of intrinsic existence, right? So in that meditative equipoise, the conventional reality do not exist at all. So explaining so the meaning of burning of all dualistic phenomena is like that. It does not mean burning of all dualistic phenomena. It is abandoning or making non-existent of the conventional reality. It simply not exist in the face of the wisdom realizing emptiness. Right. So that's the one thing. And then the grasshopper hops to the calm abidings. It's calm abiding. It's calm abiding and shamatha. Is, I think, the English word in the calm abiding is a very, very, I find it's a very, very good kind of, kind of word that's perfectly fit. Calm abiding, right? So abide, because you have abiding single-pointedly, that brings the calm. By calming the thoughts, you've been able to abide. So it's both are very kind of, perfectly fits these two words, calm abiding. So that the Sanskrit, you can say, shamatha, shamatha. Shamatha, but in the Sanskrit, actual word, samadhi, right? So this is how English pronounce the Sanskrit, shamatha, right? As a samadhi, samadhi. So now this kind of single-pointed meditations, by abiding in the single-pointedly with one object, that helps the mind to calm, because it prevents the distractions, because you're single-pointedness, kind of abiding in it, that calms the mind. So therefore it's calm abiding. Now, if this calm abiding, single-pointedly abiding in the single-pointedly within the one single object, is, if this calm abiding is due to kind of analytical meditations, then it has the power, it is the antidote to overcome negative emotions. If this calm abiding is through the skillful means of the method, the instructions, not through the analytical meditations, then it has only quality is it can calm for the period of time while you're abiding in it. So it is not being able to calm your mind the subsequent, after the meditations. After meditations, all the habits comes back. So that's how calm abiding kind of drive from analytical meditations, right? Is the kind of the way to deal with afflictions or emotions or distractions. Other is calm abiding not through the analytical meditations, simply through the instructions and the methods, and being kind of single point to meditate, is to avoiding the afflictions. It can only kind of duck from the afflictions. So this is like when someone throwing many things, you're just moving around, right? Being able to avoid that, right? But when you get tired, so you may get hit, right? So in the stages of the meditations, Kamala Shila, so he says this type of calm abiding is like someone, the warrior who goes in the battlefield, and then when the enemy comes, he closes his eye and holds his kind of sword with him. So like he was kind of when the enemy comes, and he close eyes, they will kill him, right? So this calm abiding has no kind of power to dealing with emotional. It can only avoid for the certain period of time. So Kamala Shila says mid dharmashin mitsumba michavos. So mid dharmashin mitsumba michavos. Don't close your eyes, wisdom eye, like a coward in the battle. So the Kamala Shila says that. So it looks like during the Tiso days, once in Tibet, it's kind of a little bit people get excited about the meditations. So many people follow them, come to the meditation sessions, and kind of people kind of have excited interest finding. And so Tiso Desen finds this will be the obstacles for kind of, Buddha Dharma, because this will prevent the study, rigorous study in Buddha Dharma. So Tiso Desen and brings the Kamalashila from India to defeat this master who would kind of, teaches the meditations. And the Kamalashila defeat, and then Tiso Desen says, now you're all defeated, so yes, please you go back. Don't come back. So I think that here, in also third ground, the cause, which has really brings the powerful forbearance, is due to the wisdom realizing emptiness. Because the wisdom realizing emptiness has the power to prevent the beginning of the sparkle of this impatience. Because otherwise you cannot really prevent or stop, right? By thinking that, oh, he is going to harm me. He might harm me, or he had. So this kind, keep thinking always. And then also sometimes sometimes we think, if he has harmed me, and what do I do? So when you already create this person in bringing harm to you, and you have the picture of that person and his actions, and you being harmed, and you are looking into that imaginations, you see you being harmed. Right? So this may sparkle the impatience, starting building up the impatience more and more, then anger. So the wisdom realizing kind of dismantle or pacify all the mental construct. Right? So pacifying all the mental construct is the kind of, leaving no space for the impatient to grow. So that's why the wisdom realizing emptiness is the main condition that could perfect the generosity, patience, moralities. So without wisdom realizing emptiness, in the Buddha and Sutra, and they also mention there's someone who is pretending to be disciplined moralities, right? So who is trying hard to make himself very disciplined. And he has always feared, right? Am I breaking it? Will I break these vows? Keep thinking about it. So this morality, kind of the positive qualities, the speech in the body is like, it's just like a painting. So it may fade away again. So and you paint again and again, again and again. So this will never become the part of your nature. So with the wisdom realizing emptiness, morality comes naturally. Right. So as I mentioned, the 253 monastic vows is based with one day's Buddha's kind of, behavior and his actions. One day his actions. So the followers are trying to behave like Buddha. So we keep breaking. So you just stumble again, stand back, or I go like that. So calm abiding. I always find this is the term is very, very kind of, very, very good, sound good, come abiding. Joe Biden, no, come abiding. Are you practicing Joe Biden or come abiding? So I'm come abiding.
Okay, I have another question here, but it's a very different kind of question. This book, Illuminating the Intent, that is going through all the bhumis, and the foundation of all of them apparently is wisdom realizing emptiness. And the way it's presented in the book is like in a sequence. Like from one, you do this bhumi, then you go through this bhumi, then you go through this bhumi. And it's easy to kind of, I think it's probably incorrectly infer that this book is like a workbook. You work on the first chapter, then you work on the second chapter. But I kind of suspect that's not really the way it works. That you're deepening a state of the wisdom realizing emptiness. And of course, this book is giving us various things to reflect on in each chapter. But is it a totally sequential process? I mean, that it's not like, first we have to perfect generosity, then we have to perfect ethics, then we have to perfect forbearance, or is that just, I mean, is it kind of saying that this is how it unfolds when we deepen the state?
I think
is this kind of how it unfolds, or it's not really intended as a workbook? You have to first perfect generosity. Don't reflect on ethics. Don't reflect on forbearance. You have to do it sequence by topic. I don't think that's really how it is.
Yeah,
is it?
No. It's not like this. This is like, I think most of the Dharma teachings is not like kind of, when you go to the restaurants, orders through the menus, and then waiters brings one by one, you have to eat. So the Dharma teaching is not like that. So this talking about the perfections, morality, the patience, is like among the 6 perfections of the 10 perfections. So perfection of the generosity, when do you kind of being able to superior quality in the perfection of the generosity? So which bhumi can which bhumi can achieve the superior in the perfection of generosity? Then it's the first bhumi. And which bhumi can have the superior on the morality? Then it's second bhumi. So when it comes to the practicing, so there's no order. There's no order. So you have to practice everything together. Morality, patience, generosities, everything. It's not in order. The superior quality, the kind of, among the 6 perfections, the superior, the perfections will be they kind of achieve in the first bhumi and second bhumi, third bhumi. It's like that. Because each bhumi has the
kind of, the particular negation element. By negating this, you gain this. By negating this negation element, and you gain this. So the first bhumi and the kind of special, the power of through the power of the wisdom, what they are abandoning is miserliness. And the second, the kind of the bhumi is the power of the wisdom is being able to, being able to abandon those, the emotional, the kind of, this kind of looks like the intense state of the habituations that influenced by the negative emotions. These are all abandoned in the second bhumi. So third bhumi, and then abandoning all the desirums and negative emotions. So I kind of, wisdom, the realizing emptiness is the same. First bhumi, second bhumi, third bhumi is wisdom realizing the way they perceive emptiness, same. But through the accumulations, the merit and the power of the compassion, the strengthening the wisdom more deeper and deeper, right? So that has a special quality, special power to abandon this much negative emotion, that much negation element. And then the 10th bhumi, the most subtle negative emotions, kind of in the stain of the negative emotions, and finally kind of erase, kind of remove within the mind. And the very instant that you have removed even the most subtle afflictions, the stain of the afflictions, then you become the Buddha, enlightened being. This is how you really kind of gain the qualities I was talking about. So when it comes to the practicing, you can practice all together: generosity, morality, patience, and everything. So when you are poor, you eat everything. So you become more richer and richer, and you select, this time I food eat. So, right now we are poor, we eat everything together. Whatever comes in your hand, just eat it just for survival. Yeah, okay. Chanju simjo ripoche, majeba na jeju, jeba nyamba, meba nya, kone kondo pevrish. Tonye tawa ripoche, majeba na jeju, jeba nyamba, meba nya, kone kondo pevrish. Pama simje tamje, dedan denju. Ngendro tamje dado tongwanda, chanju simba, kanda suju. Teda kunje, molom jubjiruchi, karera weko veshimas. Pendan dewa manen jowen, jeren simba, tinzin jazui. Shabe side padu denjuruchi.
May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May the born have no decline but increase forever. May the precious mind realize its emptiness not yet born arise and grow. May the born have no decline but increase forever. Due to all these merits, may all father and mother sentient beings have all the happiness, and may all lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are Bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred land surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. More powerful Chinese Tenzin Gyatso, remain in this world until samsara ends.
Thank you very much.